Now, welcome to another weekend ramble where we have a rather interesting topic this time, which actually came from a viewer who has a YouTube channel of their own, HH Night Reviews. We'll put a link to his channel in the description below. Anyway, what is that question? Actually, there were kind of multiple questions, but there was one main one here.
Well, he came up with a topic. What if Rian Johnson had made a Star Wars anthology movie first instead of Episode 8?
That is I think that changes history for Star Wars anyway. Obviously not the world, but, well, for the world to some extent.
Right. Even as they pointed out when they sent this topic, hindsight is 2020, but we have learned quite a bit more about Rian Johnson since making Episode 8 and the projects he's come out with since that have been much more warmly received than Episode 8.
Episode 8 kind of made Rian Johnson in a strange way. I mean, there are people who genuinely love it. A lot of critics genuinely love it and rave about it. But I think it was almost the negative reaction that people want to defend him, that he has now kind of become this icon of the Star Wars hate, if I'm making any sense at all. It's like there are so many that want to defend him that he has actually been propped up by many to be better than maybe he is, which isn't to say he's terrible. I'm trying to be fair and unbiased here, right? I'm trying to just, think of Rian Johnson as someone who, even before he came to Star Wars, I didn't know much about him. Everybody always told me, he directed some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad, which I have personally not seen, and I will someday, so spare me the watch it in the comments below. I will get to it. He's done Looper and Brick and a few other films, and the only one of those I had seen is Looper, which is fine. I didn't think it's anything
don't
spectacular.
Forget Knives Out, which was also a huge success for him.
But that came out after The Last Jedi. Like I said, there was almost this reaction, like, now we have to support Rian. Now, Rian Johnson is a genius because he shattered the Star Wars fan base. Like, he did something so profound, quote unquote, in Star Wars that we have to pay attention to this guy now. When in reality, I don't think the film is anything that special. Just trying to be, again, completely non-biased, looking at it as objectively as possible. I don't think the film is anything that special. In fact, I think it has a lot of problems.
Right. But I think he does better when he makes a world of his own, in a sense, when he's not using legacy characters, because he...
Well, when he's just using a property, I think. Like, the Knives Out thing, Glass Onion, that's his own thing now. He's made his own characters, and that's fine. Which kind of leads to the question of, if he had made a anthology-style film, and let's say he makes it after someone else makes Episode 8 and makes a successful Episode 8, and we have it erased from our mind, that if you're someone who doesn't like The Last Jedi, we have it, or likes it, you have it completely erased from your mind. He's just this guy who comes in, he's did these other things, and he makes this anthology movie. Do you think he would have made a good one?
There's a good chance that he would have made something enjoyable, as long as he hasn't given legacy characters, seeing as I feel like giving him legacy characters is something he doesn't like. He doesn't want to be shoehorned into following a story.
Yeah.
He wants free reign to write a story and do what he wants with it, which might mean Star Wars just isn't a good fit for him.
Well, no,
just like the superhero genre probably isn't a great fit for him with the franchises that exist.
He's essentially said he doesn't like world building. He's not into that sort of thing. He doesn't find it interesting. And I'm paraphrasing. That's not the exact quote, but he essentially said he doesn't enjoy that sort of thing. So it's a very strange guy to bring into a franchise, right? Mm-hmm. Especially for the middle movie of a trilogy and the second to last movie of a 9-part saga, where he's also said he wanted to give the film. He wanted to give it a very definitive end. Didn't seem to be caring about what happened before or after. Mm-hmm. So if he had one movie to do whatever he wanted with, I have to say there's every chance it could have been good.
Getting to tell his own story within Star Wars is better than, here's the plot that came before, here's where we want this to go, here's the characters that already have development, write something.
Yeah, that's not necessarily easy for someone who doesn't want to do that.
Right, that's why, George Lucas was in charge of 1 through 6, and everything kind of was very cohesive. And then the people who've taken up the mantle next, the Dave Filonis, they revere that work, and they follow it to the best of their ability.
Yeah, there's a reverence by Filoni, especially, who worked very closely with Lucas. And I'm not saying some of the others as well, but, someone who worked with him for, near a decade, obviously you're gonna respect that guy, I hope.
But I think it's really difficult to write an episode film following the main storyline, let's call it, when you don't have a passion or a great knowledge of the project.
No, absolutely.
Writing an anthology film, you can get away with a lot more, because yes, the lore story people will, even Tony Gilroy has mentioned that the lore people will kind of guide you with this and that, and they'll put little thises and that's into the scene because they know other Star Wars fans will appreciate it. But he didn't write for Star Wars. He wrote a good thing, that was set in Star Wars, and I think Rian Johnson might have been more successful following that route than giving him an episode film to try and shoehorn something in the middle.
Yeah, Rian Johnson very much did exactly what he wanted to do with that movie. At least that's the way it feels from the outside. I'm not saying there were no stipulations or directives that he was given by Lucasfilm or Disney, but it certainly feels when you watch that film that he was allowed to do what he wanted. Mm-hmm. So if he makes an anthology film and has that same freedom, I do think, don't get me wrong, when I say there's a chance it's good, there's also a chance it's just a disaster, but it's an anthology film.
One of the questions that he put forth in the email he sent was, do you think his unorthodox methods would have led to a giant disaster similar to Solo, a Star Wars story?
I mean, that's so hard to tell. Like I said moments ago, like I think there's every chance it could have been good, and there's every chance it could have been something just a little too... Like, I watched Glass Onion, and it's very eccentric, and it's a murder mystery. It's its own thing, right? Mm-hmm. To me, it didn't strike me as someone... I didn't watch that and think, oh, God, this would be a really good, director for a Star Wars movie right here, or a good writer-director combo for a Star Wars movie. But, he's not trying to write a Star Wars movie. I've seen what he did when he tried to write a Star Wars movie, and I was like, It's kind of... you'll never hear me compare this again, but it is kind of like Andor in a way where it's, it's really trying to focus on the story first and not so much that it is Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And it works exceptionally well for Andor because Andor still has that reverence we talked about before, whereas you don't feel that with Rian Johnson. So if he makes an anthology movie and he goes to some weird part of the galaxy, just makes a weird movie, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people who liked it, a lot of people who didn't, but they really wouldn't care if they didn't like it.
You could set a murder mystery on Canto Bight.
Well, let's not do that. But my point is, like, it's episode 8. This is the Skywalker saga, as Disney has called it now. This is the big movie. This is the one you can't screw up. If he had done a little side project, especially like I said, after The Force Awakens, and then you had Rogue One, and you had we'll say a successful episode 8. If he had bombed something, people would be like, whatever, I didn't like that one. But did you see 8? Did you see Rogue One? Did you see, hopefully episode 9 was good too? It would have been forgotten. Or it would be something people loved. It would have been, I don't think there would have been any in between if the sequel trilogy had been successful.
No, I think you're 100% correct on that.
People either wouldn't care about it or they'd be, yeah, that was great, just along with all the other great movies they cranked out.
Their biggest problem, I think, was not nailing down one director for 3 movies.
No, absolutely. Not having, well, it's not even that you needed a director. You needed one person behind the scenes who, like, this is the story, and if you're a director who wants to do it, this is the story you're going with. This is my vision. Kind of like Lucas did with the original trilogy. We had different directors for 5 and 6, yet he was the guy above them all who could veto or give the green light.
Which makes sense. You need that. You need someone steering the wheel behind the scenes who really cares about the franchise, who knows the lore and the characters, who can guide a director if needed.
Well, because in a franchise, you need that. You need the Kevin Feige, or you need somebody there who's like, no, we're not doing that. Because it's just not going to work for the grand vision. Nobody had a grand vision for the sequel trilogy.
Staying on topic, I feel like if Rian Johnson was given a new movie, that it should just be an anthology, something that he gets more free reign over. As a Star Wars fan, that might be rough because it may not pull no numbers if you don't somehow connect it to legacy characters or characters we know. I mean, Andor did struggle with numbers because of the fact that everyone's like, well, we know him, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, we know how it ends.
So it would be, it's almost an uphill battle trying to give Star Wars fans a movie that is Star Wars, but doesn't contain something we know.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think Rian Johnson's going to... I know everybody's going, well, he says he's still working on it, and Lucasfilm doesn't say anything because they just want it to basically go away. That's what I believe. It's been 5 years. There's no progress. I don't think you want to bring the guy who brought the biggest controversy possibly ever to Star Wars back. I know you can say the prequels are a controversy. That was a different time. This is the age of the internet where the hate for Rian Johnson, let's say, just exploded. I don't know that you want to bring that back to the fan base. So yeah, in summary, I think if he makes a one-off movie and you erase Rian Johnson from your brain, it's either something that a lot of people just kind of forgot ever existed, kind of like Solo, right? Mm-hmm. Solo came out after the disliked or controversial The Last Jedi, and it's kind of like that movie, like, yeah, there's people who like it, but there's also a lot of people who just don't care about it either way. It's not hated on. No one really hates on Solo. Or it would be something that had been profoundly good. Which one do I think it would have been? Probably, the former. Probably something that was just there that a lot of people maybe enjoyed and a lot of other people just kind of thought was, what it was. All right, well, that is all we got for you this time. So do take to the comments below. I would love to hear what you think about this one. Would Rian Johnson have been better suited never making episode 8 and perhaps kind of taking the place of Solo with his own anthology movie after we're going to say a successful episode 8, or maybe after an unsuccessful one? Whatever the case may be, do leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.